My sister's wedding venue canceled everything by sunrise. The deposits were frozen, guests were calling non-stop, and the groom had disappeared without a trace. But the strangest part was that only a few hours earlier, my parents had thrown me out of the family and told me never to come back. They believed I was trying to ruin my sister's happiness. What they didn't know was that I had spent weeks trying to protect them from the disaster that was now unfolding. My name is Alara Winslow, and I was 29 years old. For as long as I could remember, I had always felt like the forgotten daughter. My younger sister, Marin, was the center of everything. My parents, Thaddeus and Corinne, adored her. If Marin wanted something, she got it. If Marin made a mistake, someone else was blamed. Meanwhile, I was expected to stay quiet and support everyone else. When Marin got engaged to Gideon Voss, my parents acted as if they had won the lottery. They loved him from the moment they met him. He was charming, successful, and always knew the right thing to say. The wedding quickly became the most important event in our family. Every conversation, every weekend, and every dollar seemed to revolve around it. At first, I was happy for my sister. I helped with planning, attended meetings, and did everything I could to support her. But the more time I spent around Gideon, the more uncomfortable I became. Small things didn't add up. There were stories that changed, details that never matched, and questions he always seemed to avoid answering. The feeling in my gut grew stronger every day. I tried to ignore it, hoping I was wrong. I wanted Marin to be happy. I wanted our family to have the perfect wedding they dreamed about. But eventually, I found something that made me realize this wasn't just a bad feeling. Something was seriously wrong with Gideon Voss, and if I stayed silent, my sister's future could be destroyed. Looking back, I should not have been surprised by what happened. My parents had spent years showing me exactly where I stood in the family. Whenever Marin and I argued as children, they almost always took her side before hearing both stories. If something went wrong around the house, somehow the blame landed on me. Marin could make mistakes and be comforted. I made one mistake and got a lecture. As we grew older, the gap between us became even clearer. I worked hard through college, took extra jobs when I needed money, and built a career on my own. Nobody opened doors for me. Nobody paid my bills. I learned early that if I wanted something, I had to earn it myself. Marin lived differently. Whenever she faced a problem, our parents rushed in to help. They paid off debts, covered expenses, and solved situations that most adults would have handled themselves. Yet somehow she was still treated as the responsible one, while I remained the difficult daughter. I stopped arguing about it years ago. There was no point. I focused on my own life and kept my distance whenever family drama started. Things stayed manageable until the wedding planning began. The closer the wedding got, the more obsessed my parents became. Every conversation centered around guest lists, decorations, payments, or Gideon. They trusted him completely. My father spoke about him like he was already a son. My mother constantly praised how lucky Marin was to have found such a wonderful man. What bothered me was how quickly everyone had fallen under his spell. Gideon always had the perfect smile, the perfect answer, and the perfect story. If someone asked a question, he responded smoothly without missing a beat. Most people found that charming. I found it strange. Real people have flaws. Real people get nervous sometimes. Gideon never seemed to. It felt like he was performing rather than living. The more I watched him, the harder it became to ignore the uneasy feeling growing inside me. I couldn't explain it yet. I only knew that something about him didn't feel honest, and that feeling refused to go away. While sorting through wedding paperwork one afternoon, I was only trying to help. Marin had asked me to organize some of Gideon's documents so nothing would get misplaced before the big day. At first, everything looked normal. Contracts, vendor agreements, and business cards all neatly arranged. But one page caught my attention. A company name I had never heard before was listed as one of Gideon's previous businesses. Something about it felt off, so I searched it online. That simple search opened a door I wish I had never touched. The first thing I found was a lawsuit, then another. Then a pattern started forming. The company had been shut down suddenly, leaving behind unpaid debts and angry partners. What confused me more was that Gideon's name kept appearing under slightly different business identities, like he had been restarting his work under new labels each time things went wrong. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe it was coincidence, maybe it was a misunderstanding. But the more I searched, the worse it became. There were multiple closures, financial disputes, and records that didn't match the polished image everyone believed in. My hand started shaking at one point, so I closed my laptop for a moment. I remember sitting there in silence, trying to convince myself I was overthinking everything. But deep down, I knew I wasn't. I went back to it anyway. I took screenshots, saved documents, and wrote down dates. I didn't know exactly what I was building, but I felt like I needed proof. Something solid enough that no one could dismiss me again. By the time I stopped, it was already late. My mind was exhausted, but my thoughts wouldn't slow down. I kept thinking about Maren smiling while talking about her perfect wedding, and my parents trusting Gideon without question. I was scared to say anything. Not because I doubted what I found, but because I already knew how they would react. Still, keeping quiet felt worse. I made a decision that night. I would tell them everything, even if they hated me for it. I asked them to meet me in the living room that evening. I didn't tell Maren the full reason at first. I just said it was important and couldn't wait. My parents were already there, sitting close together like they always did when they wanted to appear united. Maren walked in smiling, holding her phone, clearly irritated that I had interrupted her wedding mood. Gideon followed her a few seconds later, calm as ever, like nothing in the world could shake him. I placed my notes on the table. My screenshots, the business records, everything I had collected. My hands were steady, but my chest wasn't. I need you all to look at this, I said quietly. It's about Gideon. The room changed instantly. Maren's smile faded. My father leaned forward slightly, already defensive. My mother sighed like I was wasting their time. I explained everything I had found. The company names. The lawsuits. The debts. The repeated closures. I didn't exaggerate anything. I just laid it out as clearly as I could. When I finished, there was silence. Then Maren laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. You went through all of this, just to ruin my wedding, she said. That hurt more than I expected. I tried to respond, but my father cut in first. He said I was acting out of jealousy, that I couldn't stand seeing my sister happy. My mother nodded like it was obvious. Gideon finally spoke. His voice was soft, almost disappointed. He said these accusations had no proof, that successful people always had rumors attached to them. He looked at me like I was confused, not dangerous. And somehow, that was enough for them. My parents immediately agreed with him. Every point I made was dismissed in seconds. No one asked for details. No one checked the documents. It was like they had already decided the truth before I even walked in. Maren stood up, her face red with anger. She said I was trying to destroy something beautiful because my own life was empty. I looked around the room and realized something simple and painful. They weren't hearing me at all. They had already chosen him. The rehearsal dinner was held in a decorated hall filled with soft lights and expensive flowers. Guests were laughing, music was playing, and everyone looked excited for the wedding day ahead. I stood near the edge of the room, already feeling like I didn't belong there. Maren didn't even look at me at first. She was busy greeting guests, smiling like nothing had ever happened. Gideon stayed close to her, always just one step behind, acting polite and calm. But I could feel the tension building every time someone glanced at me. Then Maren suddenly tapped her glass. The room slowly quieted down. She looked straight at me. I can't stay silent anymore, she said loudly. My own sister has been trying to destroy my wedding for weeks. The room went still. My stomach dropped. I tried to speak, but voices started rising around me. Maren said I was jealous, that I had been spreading lies about Gideon. Her voice shook, but she kept going, making it sound like I had been attacking her happiness from the start. Gideon stepped forward right after her. He looked calm, almost sad, like he was the one being hurt. He said he didn't understand why someone would want to damage their own sister's biggest day. People around the room started murmuring. I felt eyes on me from every direction. I raised my voice and tried one more time. I told them they needed to listen, that I had proof and it wasn't about jealousy. I asked them to just look at what I found. My father's face changed instantly. He told me to stop embarrassing the family. His voice was sharp, final. My mother wouldn't even look at me. She said I had gone too far this time. I turned to Maren, hoping for even a second of doubt in her eyes. There was nothing. Only anger and disappointment. Then my father pointed toward the door and told me to leave. My mother added quietly that I was no longer welcome at the wedding. No one stopped it. No one defended me. I walked out while the music started again behind me, like nothing had happened. The night air outside felt colder than I expected, and for the first time, I realized I was completely alone. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake staring at my ceiling, replaying every word from the dinner. My phone stayed silent, which somehow felt worse than any message. Morning came too fast. The first sign something was wrong was a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer it, but it kept ringing again and again. Then a message popped up in our family group chat, but it wasn't from Marin or my parents. It was from the wedding coordinator. The event was cancelled. At first, I thought it was a mistake, a delay, something small. But then more messages followed. The venue had suspended all bookings related to Marin's wedding. Payments were being held. Contracts were under review. No one was allowed to enter the hall until further notice. Within minutes, everything started falling apart. Marin called me repeatedly. I didn't answer at first, but the calls kept coming until I finally picked up. Her voice was shaking. She kept asking what I had done, like I had some control over it. I told her I didn't do anything. She didn't believe me. When I reached the house later, it was chaos. My father was pacing in the living room, holding printed emails. My mother was sitting on the couch, staring at her phone like it had betrayed her. Vendors were canceling one by one. The florist, the caterer, even the photographer. Each message made the situation worse. No one was giving clear answers, only that there were serious legal concerns tied to the groom. Marin was crying in the corner, asking where Gideon was. No one had seen him since morning. My father tried calling different people, shouting into the phone. My mother kept saying there must be a misunderstanding, that things like this don't just happen overnight. But they were happening. And for the first time, I saw fear in their faces. The perfect wedding they had built their entire world around was breaking apart in real time, and none of them knew how to stop it. The situation didn't stay confused for long. By afternoon, people in formal uniforms started appearing around the venue office. They asked questions, collected documents, and sealed certain files. Everything felt more serious than just a cancelled wedding. My father kept trying to talk to someone in charge, but no one was giving him clear answers. They only said it was part of an active financial review. That word alone changed the atmosphere in the house. Marin sat on the stairs, holding her phone like she was waiting for Gideon to call. But he didn't. Not once. Later that day, investigators came to our home as well. They asked for copies of payment records, contracts, and bank transfers connected to the wedding. My mother looked terrified when they started going through folders and receipts. My father went quiet for the first time I had ever seen. What came out slowly was worse than any of us expected. Gideon's businesses were not what they seemed. Several of them were tied to false investment schemes. Names had been changed, records shifted, money moved in ways that didn't make sense at first. But to them, it was clear. There was a pattern, and it pointed to long-term fraud. Even the wedding funds were under question. Large payments that my parents had proudly made were now being traced back through accounts connected to investigations. That realization hit them hard. Everything they thought was clean had suddenly become suspicious. Then came the final shock. Gideon was gone. No calls. No messages. No location. His apartment was empty when checked. His belongings were removed like he had planned it carefully. It didn't feel like someone running late. It felt like someone disappearing on purpose. Marin kept asking where he could be, repeating his name like saying it enough times would bring him back. But every hour that passed made it clearer that he wasn't coming. For the first time, she stopped defending him. Her voice broke when she finally said she didn't even know his real life outside of what he had shown her. The truth was spreading fast now, and it was nothing like the story they had believed. By the next few days, the investigation had moved deeper than anyone expected. What started as confusion turned into confirmed evidence, and every file they opened seemed to match the things I had warned them about earlier. One investigator sat at our dining table and placed printed reports in front of my parents. He pointed out names, transactions, and patterns that showed everything clearly. There was no more guessing involved. It was all written down in black and white. My father didn't argue anymore. He just stared at the papers like he was trying to find a mistake that wasn't there. My mother kept asking how this could happen without anyone noticing, but no one answered her. Marin stayed quiet most of the time. She didn't leave her room unless someone called her down. When she did come out, her face looked different, like she hadn't slept in days. The worst part for her wasn't just the fraud. It was the realization that I had been telling the truth from the beginning. The same warnings they had dismissed were now being repeated by officials and investigators. There was no way to ignore it anymore. I overheard her once asking my mother why I was the only one who saw it early. Her voice wasn't angry anymore. It was lost. Outside our family, things were getting worse. People who had once praised Gideon were now pulling away. Business partners stopped responding. Invitations and agreements were quietly withdrawn. No one wanted to be connected to what was unfolding. Our name, which had always been spoken with pride, started disappearing from conversations. It felt like doors were closing one by one. Even relatives who had been present that night at the rehearsal dinner began reaching out differently. Some apologized. Some asked questions. A few admitted they had thought I was being dramatic before, but now they weren't so sure. Inside the house, everything felt smaller. The same rooms, the same walls, but nothing felt familiar anymore. The truth had fully settled in, and there was no space left for denial. They came to my apartment late in the evening. I saw them through the peephole first, standing in the hallway like they didn't know how to knock properly anymore. My father looked tired in a way I had never seen before. My mother kept adjusting her hands like she was nervous. Marin stood slightly behind them, her eyes already red. I opened the door but didn't step aside. For a few seconds, none of them spoke. It felt like they were waiting for me to invite them in, but I didn't. Finally, my father spoke first. His voice was lower than usual. He said they needed to talk. I let them in, but only to the living room. No hugs. No comfort. Just distance. My mother started almost immediately, saying they had made mistakes, that everything had gotten out of control. She said they didn't understand the situation properly back then, but now they did. My father added that they were sorry. He didn't try to justify it. That alone felt strange. Marin couldn't hold it in for long. She broke down halfway through her apology. She said she should have listened to me from the beginning. That she let herself believe the wrong person because it was easier than questioning everything she trusted. Her voice kept breaking as she spoke, and she kept wiping her face like she was trying to stop the words from escaping too fast. I listened to all of it without interrupting. When they finished, the room went quiet again. No one seemed sure what was supposed to happen next. I asked them one simple question. Where were they when I needed someone to believe me? No one answered quickly. My father looked down. My mother pressed her lips together. Marin started crying again. I told them I understood what they were going through now, but I wasn't the one who caused it. I wasn't the one who ignored the truth. And I wasn't the one who made decisions without listening. They wanted forgiveness like it could fix everything in one moment. But some things don't rewind that easily. I didn't tell them I hated them. I didn't shout. I just said I couldn't be the solution to what they had created. For the first time, they were left sitting with the consequences on their own, without me stepping in to carry it for them. Months passed after everything fell apart. Life didn't return to normal for anyone in my family, not even close. Court dates started stacking up, and news about Gideon's case kept spreading through official channels. It wasn't just one charge. It became several, each one tied to different people who had trusted him. The more investigators uncovered, the clearer the pattern became. False identities, fake companies, and money moved through accounts that were never meant to be traced so easily. The case grew larger with time, and more victims came forward. Each story added another layer to what had been hidden behind his calm personality. Marin stopped talking about him completely. At first, she stayed home most days, avoiding calls and messages. Slowly, she started rebuilding small parts of her life. She took a job she never would have considered before and began handling things on her own. There were days she still looked like she was carrying something heavy, but she kept moving forward. My parents changed too, though not quickly. The house felt quieter when I visited. My father spent more time sitting alone, thinking instead of speaking. My mother tried to stay busy, but there was a different energy around her now, like she was constantly reflecting on things she couldn't undo. They never stopped thinking about how they had treated me. It wasn't always spoken out loud, but it showed in small ways. In pauses during conversations. In the way they listened more carefully when I spoke. I didn't return to the same life I had before all this happened. I built something new instead. My work grew stronger, my circle of friends became smaller but more honest, and I stopped feeling like I needed approval from people who couldn't see me clearly. The distance between me and my family remained, but it wasn't painful anymore. It was just real. What stayed with me most was simple. The moment everything collapsed, I was the one they had pushed away. And yet, I was also the only one who had tried to stop it from happening in the first place. In the end, I didn't need revenge. Life handled the rest.